Welcome to Subramani. I was addressing a bunch of financial advisors, and one question which was asked is how often should we meet clients, especially during times of COVID or the COVID behavior which we still carry forward, which means many of the meetings are happening on the online, so everybody wants to meet every client more often. On Zoom at least. So I classified it into I said I'll address this issue, and I said largely there are two things which are happening. One is what you want to tell all clients, and one what you want to tell one specific client, right? Also for each client the way you approach could be very different. So the first question to ask was if a client wanted to have a meeting with you, how much would you charge, right? And let's say you charge 5,000 rupees for a meeting, existing client, non-existing client, whatever it is. The question is to ask yourself, will you pay 5,000 rupees for a meeting like this, or will you pay 500, right? The question is not what you want to charge, the question is what you want to pay. So mostly most of us will balk at the idea of saying, why should I pay 5,000 rupees for a meeting where I am not going to get anything? So there are two types which you can do. One is what is very generic, which you want to talk to people that interest rates may go up and therefore you may have to have some change in strategy, etc., which are very broad, right? There is no call to action immediately perhaps by every client. Some clients may be, some clients may be not. Some clients who have a 10-year view, you may not want to make any change in their asset allocation or things like that. You may even be continuing to do a SIP in a gilt fund. I mean, I'm saying this is nothing specific which some clients have to do, but something very generic. These things can be done by doing a meeting online which is for everybody. So you should be doing this free. Suppose you have 50 clients or 100 clients, you should be doing this meeting free because this is generic, right? And you may not be adding too much value to the client because you're going to say what some fund manager has already said. You're going to talk about interest rates, you're going to say this budget, what happened, or things like that, which are more generic, which you can make into a live session, or you can just make a video and send it to them, send a link to them saying this is the video, like like my YouTube channel. It is generic, it is not specifically meant for anybody. So one is that kind of a meeting, and second is where you want some action to be taken by that particular client. You want one client to make some changes in his or her portfolio. You want the family to sit up and think, saying we are now closer to our goal. Should we reallocate? Should we have more debt, more cash? Should we shift from a equity, bond and cash portfolio to an equity and cash portfolio? Because if the market comes down, it will be easier for you to adapt, and you are not worried about MTM losses in bonds. So some clients you may want to shift from a equity bond cash to equity cash portfolio. You may want to do something like that. Some clients you may want to shift from a portfolio which is excessively in liquid and in debt funds into a little bit more in equity because you're now worried about inflation, right? So those things. So you generic talks need not be charged at all, or you could charge some nominal amount, or you could say this is part of your annual fees that you're charging. And for specific meetings where you want the client to act, best is to send a mail saying these are the points on which I wish to talk with you. Would you like to attend this meeting? When would you like to attend? And I would prefer that you attend it as a family, husband, wife, children above the age of 14, 15, right? They should all attend to know what is happening in the family portfolio, because in case somebody who is handling where to drop dead, the others would at least know what you have done. So that meeting can be very small, very short. Maybe you charge money for it because you want the clients to be serious, and it should follow an agenda which is already sent in advance, and the client also says, oh yes, I want to hear about this, I want to know this. This can't be generic, right? This can't be saying what Nirmala Sitharaman said in the budget. No, that's your free lecture, generic, which you have already done. This specific lecture is for this particular family, for this particular person, saying why you are shifting from fund A to fund B, from equity to debt, from longer term debt to shorter term debt, or from shorter term debt to longer term debt, whatever you want to do, whatever changes you want to make. For this, you want to change the nominee because the child has become 18. These are very, very specific things. So this you write down, and in this meeting, you don't start with just the agenda. You say, these are my topics, please add your topics, right? So don't be very, and for heaven's sake, in this case, don't ask for any close-ended questions. Don't fill it with close-ended questions. Ask questions like, what is now worrying you about your portfolio? What is worrying you about your job? Are you sure you will be with this asset allocation? Are you confident that you will meet your, you will be able to pay your daughter's school, college fees, which is happening 2 years from now? Do you want to make any changes in that? You know, somebody who's too much into equity, you may want to make this subtle change. Somebody else, you may want to say, sir, you are worried about taking risk, but see the advantages that we have had by taking risk, right? Such and such a thing has happened in your portfolio. You have benefited. This growth has happened. Now I wish to increase some money to be invested abroad, or decrease some money to be invested abroad, whatever. You know, all these subtle changes in their portfolio, you have to involve them, you have to talk to them, and then you have to implement that for that particular family. So this kind of a meeting should be held, and you should keep on asking the client what is scaring them, what is worrying them. Are they paying their debt in full? Have they seen their credit report? Right, credit reports are today pretty inaccurate, and there is something to worry about, and at least get a free copy and have a look at it. Make sure you understand it, right? So sometimes it may require an expert to read your credit report. So do those things. Focus, tell the client that these 5 items I think are very important. I'm going to focus on this, and please give me 5 items from your side. Could be your children asking about it, could be your spouse asking about it, right? Any of those things. And like I said, open-ended questions, so the client knows exactly what you want to do. And also in this meeting you have to say, look, the following things have happened, but this is just noise. It is just not going to have any impact on your portfolio. You need not act. Right? Today, once upon a time, it was important to give the client information, data, etc., whatever was needed. But today, it is also important to tell the client what noise to ignore. There is too much noise. What is happening in Ukraine? What is happening in Russia? What is happening in the Canada truck strike? Nothing may not matter at all for your client. So you say, I will be covering all this in a generic lecture once a month. But specific to you, we will do a lecture, we will do a meet every 3 months or every 6 months, depending on whether any action is required. Or we will do a meeting where we will meet and say, okay, I've reviewed your insurance, I've reviewed your mutual funds, and I don't think there needs to be any change. This can even be a WhatsApp message. There is absolutely no reason why you should call for a meeting and say nothing needs to be done. Or you say, I don't think anything needs to be done. I don't think there is any earth-shattering event to impact your portfolio. However, please tell me that you are fine with the current level of information you have about your portfolio, or action taken, or things like that, right? Or any changes in your family which you wish to tell me, or a marriage or a death or any of those things. Then we will act on that, right? So meetings can be in different stages, different phases. You could have a charge meeting, or when a client calls and says, I want to meet regarding this, you have to assuage him. You cannot say, no, you don't need to meet. When the client wants a meeting, you have to do the meeting. But when you want to do a meeting just to spend time, because you heard somewhere that people have to spend time with the client, that is not the reason to meet. You could just pick up the phone and say, look, such and such a thing has happened in your portfolio. Your portfolio has crossed 8 crores. Your portfolio has crossed 7 crores. Or call up and say, look, you've met your retirement corpus, you're 52 years of age, now you're free to retire. Or to call up and say, look, there is not enough money for you to retire, so if your company is willing to give you an extension, by all means check it. These are some of the things which are very specific, which can be done on phone calls. You need not have a meeting. Or sometimes you have to have a meeting, or sometimes you have to have a physical meeting. So don't think that everything needs a meeting, or don't think that nothing needs a meeting. It's a combination, some generic meeting where you can call 50 people, which is a Zoom meeting kind of a thing. Something very specific that you want to address only one family, that is a meeting where 4 or 5 people are required. But if you want just one person to act on saying, okay, this is what you should be doing, then that would be a phone call or a WhatsApp message or things like that. So don't do everything through a meeting. and don't say I will not meet. You will have to find a fine combination between the two.